I said I was feeling sick, but actually I'm feeling very good today. I'm feeling all right. So, going in to this one with a loose plan, but you get to decide if this is an old man yelling at cloud video or if this is somebody who has a bunch of experience being able to provide perspective and so on. But I've been struggling a bit with how YouTube has changed, particularly Elden Ring Night Rain came out. I know it's a weird place to start the story, but you know, when you're actively interacting with a particular game like Factorio or Satisfactory or Elden Ring or so on, you kind of get sucked into like the sub algorithm on YouTube of like, you know, you look up one or two videos about the game and then suddenly it's like constant advice and this thing, and it's like two competing types of video. Usually it's like guides or things that claim to know the secret to how to be good at the game versus elaborate shit posts where people do really stupid things with the game, like playing the whole game in weird challenge, beat the game with the spoon, do those really messed up builds in Satisfactory that don't serve a purpose, but they're really wild to look at when you unveil them in the video and thumbnail and so on. So I'm getting pulled into Night Rain videos, but I'm noticing a particular new approach that I haven't been experiencing before, and it's really annoying. I'm actually kind of pissed off right now. I do not hate, there's no hate for any of the individual creators doing this necessarily. I just don't like that it's rewarded and I keep encountering it, and like this stuff's often just as much as the algorithm's fault or audience's fault or just like it's the latest meta, the latest trick. But what's getting me is that I keep clicking on videos that pretend to be informational videos about Elden Ring Night Rain, and then they just are secretly a stream VOD. Like, the guy will talk to the camera like I'm doing right now for like 1 minute at the beginning of the video, as if to like get the viewers past a certain threshold of making you think this is an informational video, and then it'll just cut to a stream VOD with like no editing, and it's like, oh, this is a low effort whatever video, which is like, I don't hate, I'm not anti-streams, I'm not anti-let's plays, but I don't want to be tricked into watching somebody's let's play when I think I'm watching something else. Like that's very annoying. So I clicked on a video that was like, level 1 Night Rain is broken, crazy, level 1 better than level 15, and I'm like, okay, what's this video about? Like, I'd like to know, like, is there some sort of weird, like, specifically since I found out that, like, level 1 to level 2 in Night Rain is massive. Hitting level 2 practically doubles your stats. So why would level 1 be stronger? So immediately I'm like, okay, what's up with this video? What does that mean? What are you saying? Is there some sort of weird exploit? Is there some sort of weird trick? Does the game act weird if you reach the final boss without leveling? Like, there must be something going on here, right? And it starts with the 1 minute little intro, and then the game just starts, and I'm just dumped into a VOD, and then I look at the duration, I'm like, oh, this is 3 hours. This is 3 hours of VODs, and I look around the chapters, I'm like, there's a chapter for each boss in Night Rain. This is just a VOD of him beating every boss in Night Rain with his friends at Soul Level 1. This is just a Soul Level 1 run. We have a thing, we call that something already. What? Why is the video called that? Why does the video have that thumbnail? Like, it's, ooh, level 1 broke? Nothing's broken about level 1 in Night Rain. I don't know, maybe there's some sort of insight you get if you watch the whole 3 hours. I wasn't going to sit through all that because I clicked off the video once I realized I'd been tricked into watching a video. But I was like, we already know what a Soul Level 1 run is. That's a challenge run. Challenge runs are cool. Like, upload a challenge run. But I want to know I'm clicking on a challenge run. Don't give me this like pseudo Vati Vidya video that's like, oh, here's the secrets of Elden Ring, and then it's actually just you playing the game normally. Like, that's really annoying. Like, it contributes to how all of the internet is unsearchable now. You can't look up the things you want to watch anymore because all of the branding is trying to play the YouTube algorithm game of tricking people into watching it. So you can't tell what videos are, and even if you know what the video is, you in your brain you're like, oh yeah, it was the one where they did Soul Level 1 runs, and you're like trying to tap that in, and you're like, it doesn't come up because they called it some bullshit. And it's like, maybe the video does better in the short term. It probably does. These videos, the fact that these videos are being suggested to me means they're doing well, and these channels are successful. But it makes me mad at the entire internet. like for the way that this stuff works. There was another one that was like, it was like Elden Ring Night Rain volcano bad. It's actually trash. It's worse than you think it is, and it's always like, it's being framed as this contrarian opinion. Like, you guys think the volcano is good because it gives you a legendary weapon, but it's actually bad. And it's like a half-an-hour video. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an interesting breakdown, right? It's going to be like an illusory wall video, like my friend Illusory Wall, who does high-effort videos that are these analyses of how this specific part of a game works, or some weird mechanic, or secret vestiges of previous development cycles, or like deleted content, all sorts of weird things like that. But instead, the video opens up with a tiny description that's like, yeah, if you're doing the Everjail meta of this game, you want to get every Everjail, but if the volcano spawns, it cuts 3 Everjails out of the map. And technically, if you do every Everjail with the damage boost, then the damage boost you get from that is stronger than getting a legendary weapon compared to a epic weapon or whatever. Like 2 sentences of description at the beginning of the video. And then it's a stream VOD of just him and his friends playing the game, and it doesn't even have like a conclusion to the thought. He's like, don't think I'm a volcano hater or anything. In fact, here's proof that I'm actually like, volcanoes are cool or whatever. I'm like, what are you talking about? What? You made me think that this was going to be like a scripted thing with a thesis and then supporting evidence, and it was going to build to a conclusion, and you're going to have reveals over time because it's like a half-an-hour video. But instead, it's just like a half-assed description for why you a half-assed description that perceives you just doing a random playthrough of an Elden Ring level with your friends that happens to feature the volcano. And it's like, I click off the video because he tricked me again into clicking into watching a video that just isn't what it, like, what's happening? This is very frustrating. And now I'm really suspicious of all of my suggested videos for Elden Ring, because every now and then you have a VOD video that's actually explaining something, and every now and then you have someone that just honestly claims they're doing a challenge run or a speed run, or can I beat Elden Ring alone? Like, I watched a video of somebody where their goal was to beat Elden Ring solo, and they did it. And I'm like, okay, he did the thing he said he was going to do, and I watched the video because it was fine. But all these other videos are just lying about their contents, and they're clearly being rewarded because they do well. And like, it feels really cynical that they open with a little bit that looks like this, basically, like it's a different format of video at the beginning, as if to trick you into sitting, because like, so much of YouTube is now based around trying to get people to not click off the video in the first 5 seconds, because apparently everyone does that. I don't know how the fuck you guys use YouTube videos. I don't understand YouTube audiences, and it's my job. But like, when I click on a video, I click on it and then I'm just sitting there watching it for a while. Like, I might decide a few minutes in that this video is actually not really that good and worth my time. Like when a video essay starts just summarizing the plot of the entire show they're talking about for 40 minutes, I'm like, okay, no, you're not very good at writing. It's like, no hate, but I'm not going to watch your stuff. Or I just don't like particularly find the person entertaining, but to know if the person's entertaining in like a gaming content thing, you'd have to like sit there for a bit and actually like check their vibe. No one's going to be like, whoa, hilarious, with no context in 5 seconds. Like, people build to jokes or have a particular charm to them that you need to vibe out a bit. So it's like, I don't know why 50% of the audience of every YouTube video clicks off within the first like 3 seconds of every single video. Like, they treat YouTube videos like they're TikToks or tweets or something. I don't know how you browse like that. It sounds exhausting, but it means that's led to this. It seems to have led to this behavior where you try to trick people into watching past the beginning of your video. Sometimes it's that trick where you show a highlight from later in the video and you show it at the beginning, and then later on you'd be like, oh, we're at the part where that was in the beginning. That's funny. Like, I think Dr. Mike, last time I watched any of his videos, did that. A lot of gaming content videos will sometimes show a highlight at the beginning, or they'll show a later part of the narrative. Like, that's not the end of the world, it's whatever. But some people like trick you with spectacle into watching past the beginning. MrBeast videos just practically start screaming at you and showing you drone shots of insane things or so on, to try to just like, you gotta keep watching, you have to stop watching, you have to keep watching. I hate this. I don't do any of this really because I find it very frustrating. There's versions of it that are acceptable and versions of it that are really irritating. I just don't want to make this kind of content, but I also don't like tricking people. So when in this new form of practically tricking people into watching content is very frustrating. But there's a lot of versions that there's a whole evolution to this. Like there is a perspective here. I'm kind of realizing in real time while I'm talking about this. Like it's interesting to note that, like, for example, that's kind of part of the appeal of video essays, starting with the mini video essay at the beginning, where they talk about something else at the beginning. And like that other thing, if they make a satisfying, good script, that other thing will turn out to be relevant to the rest of the thing. It'll be like related to the thesis. It'll be a thing that's making a point for the larger thing. Even Josh Johnson with his stand-up does this lately, where the video will be titled This Thing, which is like a relevant headline right now, but it'll start with like a 10-minute story about something else. And you'll realize that the punchline is how that story leads into the headline story that the whole like comedy special is about. And he's actually really good at crafting narratives that way. There are good ways to do these kinds of things that make coherent art. And there's other ways that are really frustrating and irritating and just trying to like cheaply trick your audience. So I'm not here to like call out individual creators or hate on people for doing whatever seems to work, because we're all trying to just like survive, and gaming content is obviously struggling lately, and people are trying to figure out how to get people even to watch Let's Plays or streams anymore for gaming content versus all these other types of stuff about the world burning and everything. But it's interesting. So like I thought I'd go back and think about like my history with the internet a bit, because I grew up pre-algorithm internet. I also grew up pre-YouTube. YouTube came out when I was 15 years old already. I was already in high school, and it got more popular over the course of high school. I got an account for YouTube and so on. But before then, it was the pre-internet. There were multiple types of content that I watched, like Weeble and Red vs. Blue, that predate the internet. People used to go to like E-Bomb's World and Albino Black Sheep and stuff like that. Weeble's stuff, redvsblue.com, or in a later Rooster Teeth. I used to watch WoW Machinima, and it was on a separate website. So I used to just be on a website that was dedicated to watching Machinima built in WoW, World of Warcraft, where they would make narrative content and use like green screen trick. Wow, remember when they were called, what was called the blue screen and not the green screen? It used to be blue. But they'd use green screen effects and tricks and WoW Model Viewer and special and all these other things in Sony Vegas. And that's why I use Sony Vegas, or now Magix Vegas, because Sony doesn't own it anymore. I still edit in Vegas 20 years later, all my videos, because I would be on this WoW Machinima website, and in the description below, people would say that they were editing it in like Sony Vegas 6.0 or whatever. And I'm like, how'd they pull off those tricks? And I never really learned, but I did use that software. Like that was like a whole dedicated fan site where people would just dedicate themselves to the craft of making these like skits and narrative series, and sometimes like more serious things in World of Warcraft, just getting with their friends, filming their characters standing and emoting and head bobbing or whatever, and do voiceovers for it. I used to watch like The Grind and Illegal Danish and stuff like that way back in the day. And like that was back when the internet wasn't centralized around a handful of tiny platforms. You just had like places people like kind of like congregated over for particular art forms or fandoms and so on, which still happens to some extent, but almost everything inevitably gets combined into one larger program like a platform like YouTube and so on. But then YouTube was coming out, and a lot of these things were being hosted there because they kind of needed to survive. Like I made a YouTube account because I wanted to watch Red vs. Blue, but they swear in it. So I needed a YouTube account in order to watch it on YouTube because of the swearing. It used to be that if you wanted to watch Red vs. Blue, you either had to you had to catch it like reruns on television, because they had this massive audience for this show, which was, for those that haven't seen Red vs. Blue, was Rooster Teeth's old machinima where they did skits in Halo, but they'd have the character head bob to the lines that they were saying, and they made like a whole ass 20-season show out of this eventually. And it was a pretty big deal on the internet at once upon a time, back in like the angry video game nerds and days and so on. But like they couldn't afford the server costs because they had to host these episodes, which were video files, on their personal website, And if a bunch of people trafficked your website back then, you had to pay a bunch of money to your service provider for all the traffic that you got. Because visiting a website is free, but like for you to do on the internet, and still is mostly, but you visiting a website costs the person who owns that website money every time you visit it to some extent. Just the bandwidth it's coming from somewhere. That's the server space that's being accessed and so on. And it used to be that if you hosted a viral thing, you had to host it on your website. And if it got too successful and you didn't have a way of monetizing it, it could cost you like tens of thousands of dollars to have gone viral. It would just ruin your life, basically. This is actually part of the appeal of Flash and Newgrounds, is that Flash is a vector-based way of animating things, so it's all math. It's not a video file that you're uploading to Newgrounds back in the day. These Flash animations were a bunch of math. It was a bunch of vectors. It was like, instead of pixels, it was like the shapes of all the stuff was described by the program, and then it would be given to, this is not probably not the most accurate way of describing this, but it was essentially given to you the website as math, and then given back to the user's computer as math, and then Macromedia Flash Player would play that video based on the math, and it would figure out, oh yeah, these colors go here, these lines go there. Like, it was like recreating it the way that like a video game would be recreated via the data of how it's served to you. But even that's not accurate, because video games have textures. So like a lot of those textures, I mean, there's probably some textures or something like that. There's technically some images in Flash sometimes, I'm sure. I'm not the press person to explain this. But blah, 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 blah. A video file is just every single pixel has to be served as a video file for every frame. And that's a lot of storage data. So like Newgrounds, part of its appeal and how it worked so back in the day, pre-YouTube and all that, was the fact that it served these videos people could watch that were animated via vectors, and that was a more bandwidth effective way of doing this stuff. So it loaded way faster than other videos on the internet did, back when you used to have to wait multiple minutes to play most things all the time because the internet was bad. I know a lot of us had dial-up, and DSL wasn't amazing. We didn't know one had cable and so on. So it was a struggle to load videos at all, and it was also a genuine cost threat for people. So Red versus Blue, this series I love to watch, I had to look at their website where you could download the MP4 files that you could only play in like Apple's media player or whatever back then, or .mov or something. I don't know what it was, but it was, I had an Apple video player just so I could play their videos specifically. They had a list of episodes, but it would only be a couple episodes at a time, and you had to check back every day to get different episodes listed as downloads. They specifically only gave you a rotating list of episodes you could download, because if you could just sit there and binge download their entire library so far, and everyone could do that, they would be ruined. So you had to be a loyal fan and check in every day and download the videos each day yourself. And like, what I love about this, obviously I don't want the limitation here, but what's interesting about this thing, also this is like pre-Patreon, but they had a premium tier where you could pay them a subscription, and then you could just get all of the content whenever you wanted, and also higher resolution versions of it. I'm like, that's fair, because it costs them money to give you this, so if you pay them money, you get to have it all, and better, because they can afford to give you the higher resolution version because you're paying them for it. These were concerns back then. All those limitations suck, but what I do love about that, and what was so interesting about that and the WoW Machinima website and so on, was the fact that when things were viral back then, it was very organic. You had to find a thing, like it on the internet, and not click like. I mean, just show appreciation for it, and then that appreciation had to be loud enough that you showed your friends that thing, and then those friends had to have the patience to put up with the process of getting the content, and then they had to like it enough to show it to other people. And that's why certain things went viral back then, was just this organic way of people spreading it around, especially since like advertisers weren't all over the internet quite so much yet, so there wasn't even a framework for doing this artificially so much back then. It was just genuine interest in a thing that would just kind of sprout up over this and that thing. And I'm not saying that it was, I will not idolize old internet universally. Like in many cases, the older internet was more racist and more homophobic and more all sorts of other problems and more full of viruses and bad things happening to your computer. There's so many downsides. But it is interesting how much back then everyone was siloed into their own websites that they liked and based on their interests, and it was very personalized. And you had to go on the internet with intent. And that was for many reasons. One, you had to turn the internet on. Like if you had dial-up, you had to specifically switch dial-up on, listen to the horrible dial-up noises. The people in your house would lose phone access basically, and then you could use the internet, and you had to manually log off of it when you were done using like AOL and whatnot. And you had like places you wanted to go to, and places you'd find out about via chat and so on. And it was destination based. So if you were somewhere, it's because you wanted to be there. And then the YouTube came out, and a bunch of these other platforms have come out since and so on. I originally signed up for YouTube because it was a chance to watch Red versus Blue in its entirety, in higher quality and more easily, without having to deal with that whole rotating postage stamp thing where I say postage stamp because you were downloading a tiny video and you can only get one of them per day. I could just do it all now. All I had to do was register an account and then give them my age and so on, which I might have lied about back then even. But like that account that I registered to watch Red vs. Blue, and be like, I can watch this video even though it has swears because I registered an account. That's the channel I've uploaded my Let's Plays on. That channel's my job now, which is just an insane arc for that place to go through. But even in the old YouTube, and people have been surprised when I tell them about this, but like in old YouTube, there was no algorithm. So like when a video went viral, it was still because people were sharing it so much and people were like hearing about it and so on. The YouTube front page was manually curated by people that worked there. So they would manually populate it with videos like a newspaper front page and be like, check out this stuff on YouTube lately. So it was curated by a gatekeeper essentially, which can be good and bad obviously, but it was curated. So it's like YouTube on some level being like, this is stuff that we would like to be associated with, and like giving it a seal of approval while also acknowledging its like popularity or creativity and so on. And one of my favorite parts of that was that someone like Syriac or Pez or someone, the old-timey animators on that website, they would curate the front page as a guest curator. So YouTube would give certain popular YouTubers the keys to the front page sometimes, and they could choose the videos that were being suggested on the front page. And like that was how more taste making happened, how more chances to find out about cool things via word of mouth. And this is the high profile creators giving word of mouth and so on. Like that is a cool system. That's how the old internet worked a lot of the time. In the day of webrings, which was like when you'd go to a webcomic that you liked, like Penny Arcade or something, or Awkward Zombie, and the bottom of the page often had links to a series of other webcomics that they were associating themselves with. They weren't a company. They weren't like financially benefiting from each other usually. It's just a bunch of people that would suggest each other at each other essentially. Kind of like how sometimes YouTube channels have a section that just says, here's my friends' channels, or here's my other channels, just all there. It'd be like that, but like that's how so many internet things worked back then, is that you had to find things manually. So if you like this, here's some stuff you might like, and then the people that you suggest would suggest you back in their page, and you'd be like a web ring with each other. You'd be like acknowledging each other's existence and rotating your people around because they'd come to your place to find the one thing you made that week and be like, cool. Then they're done, and then they're like, well, what do I do now? And you click on the web ring, like, oh, who are these other people? It's just a very different version of the internet where you were manually going everywhere and very deliberate in how you were spending the time. It was still addictive in its own ways, and people still spent a lot of time on there, but you had to look for things, and that was very different in a lot of ways. And so when there's an interesting little time capsule from this era, which is that South Park did an episode about YouTube, viral YouTube sensations and so on, and this was always going to age immediately, and we knew that. But the older it's gotten, the more interesting that episode has gotten. And like, there's a lot of things I could say about South Park, but I don't want to get into that necessarily. It's just off topic at this point. But that episode has, like, if I remember correctly, I think it has like the probably has like the annoying orange and like chocolate rain and the guy who freaked out about the double rainbow and so on, like a bunch of people that were in many cases known for making one video ever. Like, this was the era where I saw Meet the Spartans, a terrible spoof comedy that I saw in theaters, which is a riff on the 300. And there's a part where one of the enemies has like a computer screen in their chest, and for some reason it plays the Leave Britney Alone viral video. I won't even try to I was going to try to remember that person's name, and then I remembered that I think they've both changed gender and name since then, so I'm even more doomed to try to remember their names and so on. But that was weird. It's really weird that they put that in the middle of a theatrical movie, but those movies were the post-scary movie era of spoof movies was really bad. Just trash, just garbage films. But that particular era when people would acknowledge viral YouTube videos was really interesting, because it was people that make one video and then that thing would explode like crazy. Obviously, in a Hawk Tuah kind of way, that person would try to capitalize on that success in some ways. They'd do merchandising, or they'd sell the rights to this or that thing. That's probably why they all showed up in South Park and so on. Is I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of money changing hands sometimes, because these people, like, you know, would like to turn this attention into something. It was, in many cases, before the manifestation of the modern parasocial relationship internet, where people would be attached to YouTube creators in the long term and fixating on their personalities and so on, and feel like they know them on some level and feel like this loyalty to them. It really was just this weird curiosity of like, hide your kids, hide your wife, just weird one-off surprise internet people that just had their strange little moment. In a way, like, Hawk Tuah is the good comparison, honestly. Where just this one little moment, it went viral and it all took off. And so like that stuff proved that there was an audience for online videos, but it was the Wild West. Like, you would watch Charlie the Unicorn, but you wouldn't expect there to be more stuff to go with Charlie the Unicorn. And by the way, that creator has been making videos. Secret Agent Bob has been making videos since then, still, including making sequels. He's made sequels to Charlie the Unicorn and Llamas with Hats in the last few years, and like concluded their sagas or whatever. It's just, go ahead, it's fine, it's cool. I actually really like a lot of his videos, but like it was really like just one-off videos, often not even uploaded by the person that they were of. Many of them were even uploaded by like third parties because they were on the news or something. And so like, this was the era of knowing that content was popular and could spread around, but it wasn't like about being an influencer. And the next era was when that really started. So I've had a YouTube account since like 2006, so I was technically like 1 year late or something. I started uploading Let's Play content, not even knowing the name for it. I just thought it'd be funny to upload gaming content in 2011 because my friend Andrew was really afraid of the game Amnesia. He had a Steam review where he said play Amnesia, get insomnia, and that just had me think, like, if he's having this big reaction to this game, it'd probably be funny to like record that as a video. And that's interesting because it's a little bit of content brain before we had content brain. Like, I was thinking about how it'd be a good video, but I didn't have a platform for making videos. I didn't have experience making videos. I just kind of saw some videos sometimes, but there weren't really like as much of an emphasis on long-term creators. And there's obviously overlap in all these things. None of these distinct eras just started and stopped and so on. For example, if you want to talk about long-term parasocial connections to people, the Vlog Brothers have been around since the beginning of YouTube as Brotherhood 2.0, and they're still around today. And they still have the same formula of making a video back and forth at each other, where they just like, good morning, Hank, it's Tuesday, or whatever the days are that they upload them on. They just make a video at each other once a week, talking to the other person, but also trying to show each other something interesting and so on. And that being a thing for people to watch has been a show for like 20 years now. And those people are both like best-selling authors, One of them already was. One of them is. The other one is now. They have a billion other things. One of them is the Bill Nye of. It became like the Bill Nye of YouTubers, and that like Hank Green is shown regularly in people's schools as videos programs and so on like that. It's like it's changed like crazy. But like they were doing this. They were doing that format well beyond a lot of the influencer vibe, because that just wasn't what was popular necessarily. But the 2010s, I started uploading Let's Play content. Game Grumps started uploading Let's Play content a year later. We then went on to be called Game Grumps all the time. And we were called Game Grumps ripoffs because we were two people making gaming content together, and they owned that supposedly. No hate for Game Grumps, but it was just funny that people would be like getting some Boss Baby vibes on this. But yeah, the 2010s were distinctly different because increasingly it was about people who were taking this more seriously, and they were making a show, and they had long-term plans for YouTube, and there was monetization on the platform now, and you could make money from your videos if you could do well enough at them. So like at this point, like Rooster Teeth, which was originally an independent thing and then started doing stuff on YouTube, is now doing several shows because like all those shows have a chance to like breathe now and like find an audience. And this is the era where people did shows in particular. You would make an episode, then you make more episodes, and you have like your thing that you do on your channel. Even if they weren't called episodes necessarily, a lot of people were reliably doing a particular thing each week or so. And that was the thing they do with the Nostalgia Critic or whatever, who also started outside of YouTube, but that was mostly because of copyright stuff. Like uploading stuff to Vivo was how you, not Vivo. Was it Vivo? I think it was something else that's gone now. I could be wrong. But like they used to upload videos on a separate website that didn't have the copyright checks, because then they wouldn't have to get in trouble for all their videos the way that you do on YouTube for having clips over a certain duration and so on. But increasingly people were doing shows. This era birthed game theory, which it's just a theory, a game theory, which started on Screw Attack, a different website also. Once again, a lot of these shows were not originally even YouTube shows. Movie Bob and Game Theory were both on Screw Attack. I remember you'd have to go to a different website to watch these, along with how you used to watch like videos on escapistmagazine.com was where Zero Punctuation was, and so on, and all the big mess of shows that they tried to run in the early 2010s that then all imploded, and the website basically died for a while. That's its own thing to get into. But like this was the show era of YouTube, and this was honestly, I see this as the golden era of YouTube. And I have my own biases because I make shows like this. Like I'm currently doing a vloggy thingy, but which is me hopping formats a bit, but I do Let's Plays obviously, and Let's Plays were the 2010s themselves too. Like Game Grumps could get away with uploading 30 episodes of a Kirby game where it was just an orange background on the thumbnail with their dumb cartoon faces, the logo of the game, and a number. And it's just like, our fans like watching us play Kirby Air Ride or whatever. We say it's just the two of us on a couch and we talk, and people like the jokes and the vibe, and that's enough. And you could have the same thumbnail for the entire series, and if anything, people loved that. There was a clarity to it, because you could just watch the playthrough front to back, and you could know exactly what you were watching. You could easily identify the thing you wanted to want next. Back then, YouTube thumbnails were more likely to be informational, basically. It was all about having identifiable branding, being able to easily identify that your channel was your channel. This is why so much of my channel for so long had that sidebar with a cartoon character in it, and still does sometimes, but it's like that was rewarded back in the day, that consistency. And like I specifically remember on the Let's Play subreddit, there was a part where at one point some of my thumbnails were cited as being a good example, as a template to follow for making thumbnails, as advice for new people, because in many cases what was valued in a Let's Play thumbnail was clarity and consistency and an efficient use of the space allowed to you. The thumbnail's only this big, because a lot of the bigger versions of those thumbnails weren't even showing up anywhere else yet. It was mostly just on desktop and sometimes phone. Tiny postage stamp. How do you clearly identify that it's your channel and what kind of series this one currently is, and just make it as easy as possible for your users to identify what that thing is. They click on the next one and do it all chronologically and so on. And like, you'll remember in recent years, there was this thing where people would remove the numbers from their Let's Play series because the number was seen as a bad thing for your channel. Like, that's an example of how things have changed over time. But the reason why Let's Plays and other kind of content that was more boring, but you know, honest at least, did well, was because of a change in the algorithm that made it so that watch time was rewarded above all else. So making somewhat longer content that hit the 10-minute mark or whatever, and that people would watch for longer without clicking off, made the video do better. This had a good effect and a bad effect. The good effect is that clickbait worked less, because if you made dumb garbage thumbnails that tricked people into watching your stuff, but then they didn't watch it, they didn't keep watching it, then that video would get punished for having a bad watch time. It had the negative effect of harming short form, high effort content, like very short skits, or in particular animations. So there was a popular, thriving industry for animations on YouTube, where you'd make a really funny little viral, maybe pop culture referencey or parody 1-minute video that was animated by hand, and these were pretty well done in many cases, or at least very high effort for the tools people had of the day, because it was still DIY and whatnot. And those take forever to make and aren't very long. So being able to make making infrequent, difficult content that was that short stopped being rewarded during this era, and animations kind of died off. So you saw a lot of animators pivot to being Let's Players and so on, and that was a bummer, that very specific part. But the fact that clickbait was less effective in many cases because you had to get people to keep watching your video, that was satisfying. So there was it did feel, I could be narrativizing this, I could be editing history with my brain, so take this all with a grain of salt, but like, this is what I remember living through, all this at least, because like, this is when I was in college, and then this is the era where I started doing Let's Plays in 2011. I graduated college in 2013. Andrew was moving, so I didn't know how much we'd be able to do it anymore, so I started doing my solo content in 2013 on my channel. The 2011 stuff was on the Sad Games, a separate channel. And in 2015 I got a job, and I was doing that in parallel with YouTube, and it was killing me. It was miserable. So I did an ultimatum. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, I gotta launch a Patreon. Fund this if you want to. And since I came from the old internet, where it was bad to advertise, and it was bad to monetize, and it was bad to ask for money, I thought people were going to be hating me for this. I could not sleep that night, but I refused to look at my computer to see how people were reacting to the message. And some people were shitty to me, but there was an outpouring of support. And a year later, I eventually was at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm making more money from doing YouTube than I am at my shitty job that's killing me doing both at once. So I quit my job and started doing YouTube in 2016, and now it's been 9 years. Don't know how that happened. But to speak to like that internet culture thing and how different it is going from moment to moment through all that stuff, it's like internet culture changes so rapidly, and everyone's expectations of internet stuff changes so much. It's really weird to live through it all. It's really weird to make content throughout all those eras and try to keep what's you the whole time and so on. Like, here's a kind of unbelievable story, but Game Grumps started uploading in 2012, and it was Eagle Raptor and JonTron. Now Aaron Hansen, as he's better known as at this point, and JonTron, which thing to get into there about how JonTron didn't age so well. But at one point on Game Grumps, JonTron uploaded a promo video for his new video on his main channel. Like, he's like, oh, I do this thing with Aaron, but I do this other thing that's high effort stuff. And Aaron had his own solo channel too. That's how the whole point was supposed to be, a team up between these two YouTubers that do their own thing already. When he made a new video on his main channel, he made a promo video on Game Grumps being like, yeah, check out my thing, you know, obviously that should be normal. The response was so negative to that video as a promo video. Like, It wasn't a sponsorship. It wasn't asking for money. It wasn't any kind of modern monetization structure. It wasn't flogging a fucking cryptocurrency or an NFT or any of this dark shit that's happened in the modern era. It was literally just, hey guys, I made a video and you like me because this is me on this channel too. Check out my other channel where I made a video. And they responded so toxically to that level of promotion. Not even monetized promotion, really, just like normal I made a thing promotion. That kind of promotion was responded to so poorly in 2012 that they took the video down. I only saw it in the aftermath. Like, I saw the aftermath about the video and people talking about it. I never got to see it because it was down before I could even see it, and I was actively watching Game Grumps at the time. That is fucking wild. Like, and for the record, nowadays, Game Grumps, they have a side channel where they do live action stuff, and they post a promotional video for that channel all the time, and no one cares. Because now, not only, first of all, that was always weird to freak out about. I made something, go watch it is like a weird thing to be mad about. But like, it used to be really scummy to monetize anything. It was scummy to take advertising for anything, and some of this should be pushed back on a little bit. The YouTuber sponsorship culture does have darkness to it, where it's like people are taking sponsorships for these things that cannot be trusted and that they aren't really vetting and are often like, I think by default, if you do YouTube commercials, I'm not saying the YouTuber, I'm saying the service. I am distrustful of any service that does YouTube ads, because the fact that they're doing YouTube ads makes me think they're one of the specifically scummy weird websites. And it's way weirder if it's like Honey was always really suspicious because they're like, we save you money. Okay, where's all the money coming from for the ads? We save you money. No. What's your business model? That's suspicious. But like, it's wild watching how quickly this stuff has changed. So by the time I launched my Patreon in like 2015 or whatever, I thought people were going to hate me, because it's only been 3 years at that point since that JonTron blow up over just trying to say he made a video. And that's how rapidly culture changed. Just within 3 years, and the growth of Patreon as a concept changed people's understanding of the idea of supporting YouTubers and making their jobs possible, because monetization is just not that good on YouTube itself, which itself is funny because it's like a return to the original Rooster Teeth Red versus Blue thing of, hey, you guys got to pay us if you want all this content, because we literally can't give it to you without you paying us because of server costs. Like, it's kind of a return back to that thing of having a membership. It's like Rooster Teeth has had memberships for longer than YouTube has existed, let alone YouTube Red or Patreon and so on. So it's all different perspectives and like ways that people approach different creators and fields and so on. But you can see why I was so stressed to be like, guys, I'm sorry, but this is doing both these things is killing me. This either needs to make some kind of money for me as an adult now, or I need to stop doing it, because doing both these things is killing me, doing a job and doing YouTube. So I've been very grateful to be able to quit my job to do YouTube, and it's ultimately just on me if I do have to just adapt and change formats and make different content over time, because that's just what the demands are. So that's like what this experiment is, me doing these videos. Like, maybe these videos are ultimately more successful than my Let's Plays at some point. Maybe I scale down the Let's Plays a little bit and try to focus on doing these and the video essays, because the video essays, those grow the channel over there explosively, but only when I can make one, which is not very frequently because they're very hard to do, which is another thing for me to figure out. That's just all me adapting and figuring things out, and me diversifying channels. Like, all that stuff kind of works. We'll figure it out. But what I want to talk about here a little bit is like the MrBeastification of YouTube, because I do think that YouTube kind of sucks now in some ways, and it's been very frustrating to watch. In particular, it's just like when I look at my front page on YouTube, it's exhausting, honestly. There's so many takes and so many dramatic, explosive thumbnails, and it's all about the earth being on fire, or this YouTuber's a monster, or this piece of drama there and that thing, and it's trying to suck you into human darkness in many cases. And it makes me really miss the cozy era of YouTube, where it'd be like, Yeah, watch more Game Grumps. This or that thing you watch has more episodes this week. Go check it out. And you'd be like excited when like a Lindsay Ellis or someone uploaded their one video a month, or someone would be like, oh cool, the new video's out. And just kind of, that was the level of things. And it was like, it was a cozy era of like, my front page was full of like stuff that was oftentimes informative or cozy, or these parasocial things of hanging out with a particular thing you like in a Twitch stream sort of way. And all these things have not necessarily gone away entirely, but it seems like the website values them so differently, and the people that are trying to do them are oftentimes losing numbers, and so they have to pivot towards making their content more incendiary or being less honest about the way that they present their content. And MrBeast gets the flack for this sometimes, and I think that there's truth in a lot of that, because MrBeast is all about having these giant spectacle videos, like unfathomable spectacle that nobody else can compete with, but also it's like, it's so spectacle driven to get you to click at all costs. And MrBeast has always grossed me out as a creator, just because his goal from the beginning was just to be a big YouTuber. And I don't like it when anyone says they want to be a YouTuber just to be a YouTuber, like just for that purpose. It's like, ew, no. Because all the YouTubers I respect, they're here to make a particular thing. And it doesn't have to be super in-depth or crazy. Like, if you could just like making Let's Plays, and that's it. That's not like a super high effort, crazy artistic accomplishment. It's an interesting accomplishment in the long term to do. If you do Let's Plays for like 8 years or something, it's like, that has a narrative arc to it and a legacy and so on that's kind of interesting to look at, even if each individual piece is not super high effort and intentional. But if you at least have that level of intent, then at least that's cool on that level. But somebody just wanted to be a YouTuber and just trying to continually trick the internet into liking them, into giving them, into rewarding them, and that being all you care about, there's like a darkness there that bums me out. And MrBeast would just make videos where he like he'd be like, this is a video where I count to 100,000 or whatever, and he would just count for hours, and that's the video. And it's like, that video isn't entertaining. It's not. It's almost performance art on some level, but ultimately it's just like, no, he's not really going to do the thing that the thumbnail says, right? And then you click on it and he actually does it. Whoa. And so it's technically, it's not clickbait, but it's not entertaining. Like, that's not fun to watch. But he was doing stuff like that all the time. And like, before he had the money to do the crazy stuff, it was often stuff like that. And you can see his early stuff is him just shotgunning ideas to try to get any kind of attention and trying to figure out how to do it. And MrBeast has always grossed me out because he feels like what happens when a child is raised by the algorithm and then just wants to please the algorithm, and it's their value system is just based on what the algorithm is and wants. Like, I've listened to multiple MrBeast interviews, funnily enough, because I was doing research for our character Melvin, Mr. Man, for the Cape Escape series on role-playing games. I was researching MrBeast specifically because I was writing short stories in the universe of our tabletop RPG, and we have a character who's a parody of MrBeast, so I wanted to learn more about some of his stuff and figure out how to write that somewhat accurately. And while I was doing that research, I was listening to podcasts like Colin and Samir and so on, talking to MrBeast and so on. And I don't like MrBeast. Back then, the controversies weren't happening yet necessarily, and people were all pretty much glazing him all the time. But what struck me is that he had no artistic drive to what he did. It really was just, he would always just say that he wants to make the best YouTube video that makes people happy, and he would never get more specific than that. He never gained more artistic intent than that. He never had a particular agenda to what drives him in his career and why he makes content and what he's trying to say and put into the world, or what he sees as his responsibility as a creator and how he's trying to make the world better with this stuff, or anything like that. No idea that he's particularly trying to explore with his art. It's just making viral content for the sake of making viral content. That's his entire goal. And that's dark to hear coming from like a 22-year-old or whatever he was at the time. Like, he's just like a young guy, and he doesn't have a dream, and he doesn't have aspirations beyond just being successful as a concept. And it's like, this is completely compatible with like crypto bros and stuff like that. People who just want to make it big, and that's it. That's their whole drive. Or like, we talk about like James Somerton. A criticism that Folding Ideas had of him is that James Somerton does not want to make movies. He wants to be a filmmaker. And those are different things. Like, not the craft of making movies, not the interest in making movies and learning all the hard work and all the skills you need, and then actually having something to put into the world, but instead want to be a filmmaker. Like, you want to have achieved that. That's the goal, is to have achieved being a filmmaker. And that is a title. That's not creative aspiration, it's professional aspiration, basically. It's just being respected and admired for achieving a thing, but not caring particularly about achieving the thing in the first place, or why the thing that you would make would matter, and so on. So that stuff all grosses me out. And I cannot watch a MrBeast video. I've tried multiple times to sit through one, and they are so physically painful to sit through. The editing is so bad because it's so rapid fire that there's often not even really like emotion in these films. They're so spectacle driven that they have like this like ADHD editing going on, where it's just trying to keep you engaged like a TikTok at all times. The only MrBeast video I ever sat through was the Squid Game one, because I wanted to see what the deal was. Like, I've seen Squid Game and it's cool, and I have cool things to say about Squid Game, and I thought I'd watch it and make myself watch it because I was working on a Squid Game script back then that I didn't ultimately end up committing to long enough. But what struck me is that the Squid Game video by MrBeast was the biggest video he's ever made, both in scope and in results. Like, I think it was his most successful video at the time. And it was a fucking terrible video. It was a bad video. Like, not enough people say how bad MrBeast's Squid Game video was. It was like very obviously trash from the moment it was made. It was never a good video because it didn't understand what made Squid Game good, and it didn't understand what makes reality TV competitions good. Because like, one of these things is it's a drama, obviously, but also like it's a metaphor and a criticism of capitalistic systems and so on. But like, obviously, the games in Squid Game are designed to be good drama for the fictional show. They are not good games to watch people sincerely compete at. Red light, green light's all right. Basically, all the other ones are trash. People scratching on wax, you can't even film that, basically. You can't even tell what's happening. The one where they jump back and forth on the glass panes, it's like, that's just not fair. That's not really a competition. No, there's no even playing field. You're just making people death march. It's just not an interesting competition to watch people do as apes that want to win thing. But it is great drama for the show it was made for. So using those games in a real life situation makes for a bad video. But on the other hand, they didn't actually invest the resources to do the game show stuff correctly. Because a game show needs characters. You need to follow the contestants throughout the competition and like show their backstories when they talk to the camera and tell you like, oh, I'm a school teacher and blah, 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 and this is what I'm hoping to achieve in this game. You need to be able to watch competitors as they go throughout the entire competition and see them compete with each other and actually like have stakes in that. Like, they made a reality show based on Squid Game on Netflix, and there's a lot of ups and downsides there, but they do know how to make a game show. At least they did actually know that they had to watch follow the contestants and like build a narrative there, and there's gaps there where they clearly are fucked over by the format of Squid Game and lose the arcs they were hoping to have because people get eliminated and so on. That's a mess in its own way, but like they at least knew what you have to do to make a Squid Game show. The MrBeast show is watching over 400 anonymous randos compete at games that are not fun to watch, and then you also don't know who any of them are. So you get to the final challenge where it's time to do Squid Game, and they're like, well, we're not going to explain Squid Game, so they make them do musical chairs. And it's musical chairs between people you've never heard of. You've been watching every challenge so far, and you don't know who any of these people are in the final round. We're at the final round of a game show, and you don't know who's competing. What a failure of drama. It is purely spectacle. It is purely flexing for the sake of it. I made Squid Game. Look at me. Be impressed by me, MrBeast, because I made Squid Game. I didn't make it a good drama. I didn't make it a good game show. It's unwatchable garbage unless you have no standards, which apparently a lot of people do. But it's just the spectacle. It's just the fact that he has so much money, he can recreate the set of Squid Game and the challenges of Squid Game in a less human murdering way, and then give the prize money for Squid Game, and that's it. It's just about him promising to make Squid Game as a thumbnail and title, and then people clicking on that and be like, damn, he really did make Squid Game. But like, what's the part that's good to watch? It's just the disbelief with the idea he made Squid Game. And so when you watch these content creators that are like the MrBeast likes, they just promise some spectacle and then deliver on the spectacle, but the content's bad every time because it's not a good narrative. It's not a good drama. It's not even good at the craft. Like, at least in other kinds of YouTube channels, when someone promises spectacle and you're like, how the fuck did he pull that off? You get to see them actually pull it off. And I mean, like, you get to see how they did it. Like, the most interesting thing to come out of Squid Game on YouTube, specifically MrBeast Squid Game, is that what's the YouTuber name? I used to watch him way more. The egg drop guy. There's a lot of like backyard scientist type YouTubers that like to explain science and engineering and stuff like that. And this guy does egg drops where he challenges people to go to the dollar store and with only $10 of stuff, make a thing that'll save an egg from falling from a roof, basically. And it's like a fun little thing where you bring in YouTubers, like Aaron Hansen was on that, and you challenge them to try to accomplish this one thing. And that's a fun little thing. He was commissioned to make the squibs for Squid Game, the blood burst thing. And so he had a logistical challenge where he had to create 456 plus squibs that could go off, and he had to craft them all by hand, and he had this time limit. He was being paid by MrBeast to do it. It was a commission, but he had a time limit in which to do it because he had to make this many of them in this amount of time. And there are so many like supply chain issues of you trying to, as a normal person, trying to source that many parts. You have to come up with a schematic of how to make this machine, and you have to source all the parts for it and do all that within a time limit. And then do a little, and then they have to do a fucked up little sweatshop of them and their friends trying to craft 450 of these in one go. That drama of someone crafting that and having so many roadblocks is 100 times more interesting than the video that it was in service of. Like, this stuff drives me crazy. That video is genuinely kind of cool because it's about making something of some kind and actually facing a challenge and having human drama. MrBeast videos refuse personality. MrBeast has no personality and refuses to put them in. I think he was even said on purpose that he tries not to do that. But like that is like not what YouTube is for. It's the depersonalization of YouTube, and I do not like that change. That got a little more heated than I meant for it to. It took a little break. It's just I get very animated when I get on a tear about something. It's not genuine rage at these people, and I want to stress in particular that like, I don't hate creators for what they make necessarily. Like if MrBeast wants to do this stuff, then it's whatever. It's the fact that it becomes the trend and it becomes the thing that is rewarded. Like the shift in the culture bums me out more so than like the an individual person happening to do something. I only dislike it when an individual is making something that where the content itself is immoral in its creation or results and so on. If it's made through abuse, or it's like irresponsible, dangerous content to put into the world, the way that's made, or it's like, you know, lies and hate speech and all that. Most of MrBeast's content isn't that objectionable from a moral standpoint. There is a whole large series of controversies behind the scenes with its with the teams and so on, which I don't feel like it. I just don't feel like going into any of that. But something that stood out to me is that a few years ago, maybe even a while ago now, Jacksepticeye made a video where he was put on a lie detector, and he was asked, do you think MrBeast ruined YouTube? And he says yes. And he goes on to elaborate that it's not fun anymore. It's just about the business and the views, and it's not like it's the way that YouTube has changed. It's not like a fun. It's not like the thing that people are doing for fun anymore the way it was before, which is a somewhat interesting thing to say, because obviously Jacksepticeye was already a professional YouTuber at that point and had been for years and years. Maybe even he might be a millionaire. I don't know. I will not say that many YouTubers are rich, but I get the impression that Jacksepticeye and Markiplier and PewDiePie, that trio of horror game reactors, did really well for themselves. Especially since PewDiePie was at one point the biggest YouTuber, and I think stayed that way for like 5 to 7 years or something. Those particular people might have at some point been millionaires. Don't know. Don't care necessarily. But I also can believe, because of the format of what he was doing, that Jacksepticeye really was doing it for fun, even though it was also a living. That's the dream, essentially. Like, that's why I followed through with doing Let's Plays so much instead of my cubicle job I had at the time. And that's why so many people that I know tried to see what I do, and then they try to start doing it. Like, there's a graveyard of Let's Plays channels surrounding me, from just like random acquaintances and friends and family members that all try to do what I do in response to seeing me do it, because it seems like an all right gig, and like if it worked out and so on. And I always tell them, every investment you make on hardware, assume you're never making that money back. Assume you're losing that money forever, and that thing's going to collect dust and become garbage if you don't use it for other purposes later and so on. And they're like, yeah. But I think on some level, they always believe the American dream's going to come in, and this is going to become their job. It's going to be their escape from what they're doing right now. And it's going to work out for them. Because, yeah, it doesn't work for other people, but it'll work for them. And so on. But and it doesn't. Then the channel dies after a few weeks or months of them not getting results, and that's so little investment of time. But that shows how little. That shows how much they didn't think through the reality of doing what I do as a consistent thing, and the work that goes into that. It's fine to try something out, and bounce off of it. But I'm saying, like, that's why there's so many Markiplier likes, because everyone wants to do what Markiplier does for a living, because it seems like a fun time. And it is. If your job was to play a different itch.io indie game every day and react to the weirdness and so on, and then just do face cam and some like bisexual lighting, and then you can get to go work out all the time because you have so much free time, that's a pretty good life. I'd take that. I'd do a version of that. I had a version of that until I started to try and do more with my time, like Let's Play. I'd like video essays, instead of stagnating and being like, this is the one thing I do. I'm like, let's do high effort creative works. That won't ruin my life. And then my numbers also started going down while I was working harder than ever. Yay. I do want to create stuff that's high effort. I don't want to just coast on Let's Plays alone, but Let's Plays are fun. And if that's your gig, you get to show up for that, make a living on that, and then get to do your own self-actualization and self-driven projects because that allows you to do that. That's a good gig. There's a lot of reasons to want to do that. So I totally believe that Jacksepticeye conceptualized this thing as being a thing he does for fun while it's his job. And it's a better space on some level when it's a creative thing that people are doing because it's what they want to do. And there was a particular vibe behind a lot of the stuff you would watch on YouTube. Like, I remember watching Minute Physics and Videhart and so many other people back in the day that like seemed to just be doing it because it's what drove them, and that's what it was about. And there is a corporateness to modern YouTube post MrBeast, where the money got so big and the involved interests got so upsetting, and sponsorships became so normalized that it does feel really, really, really commercial. And so I genuinely believe that Jacksepticeye thinks that things have been ruined on that level. And what speaks to me there is that so I just saw CJ the X. Speaking of like interesting people on YouTube, I went and saw CJ the X in Vancouver. I went all the way to Canada to see CJ the X perform live, and then also hang out with a friend for a few days and have a good time on that trip like that. It's my side of Canada, so it's not that hard. And CJ the X is a very interesting performer with very interesting takes on a lot of things, but they made a video just explaining. They have a really good video called it features the word entitlement. It's like online entitlement or something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but it's about people reacting poorly to the fact that they're doing a live show that's not recorded or live streamed. You have to go to the show to see it, which I did. And because they have an online audience, they feel betrayed. Some of them feel betrayed on some level because they don't get to go see the show, and they want to see the show. They're being left out. There's exclusive CJ the X content, and they can't just like hop on Patreon to see it or something. It's just elusive and exclusive. But that's what the show is. Their goal was to make a live show. That's the environment. That's the way it's meant to be seen. It was very good. So good job there. I was at the Vancouver showing, which they said was the biggest one so far, and they seemed a little nervous, but they really, really pulled it off. But in the online entitlement video, they do a really interesting, like, half an hour sort of philosophical breakdown of this headspace and the way people react to it and so on. And there's a lot of good points that are interesting there, but the particular thing that's relevant to what I'm talking about here is that CJ the X makes a point to remind their audience that they are separate from their audience, that they are not approachable, they are not that's probably not the best way to put it. I'm sure they're approachable, but I mean, like, they're not accessible. You don't get to know CJ's real life outside of the videos that they make. You don't really know what their personal life is like, and you don't get to tell them what to do, and they don't just make what you want them to make. And that is really compelling, because like that's the struggle with the current corporate algorithmic internet. Because Netflix was known for making these high profile, really impressive prestige shows for like the first 5 years of it making shows. The Orange is the New Black, House of Cards era. They were known for they got David Fincher to make a show. But more recently, Netflix is like, meh. Everyone just goes on our platform to watch Friends reruns and like sitcom reruns. So we're second screen entertainment. No one's actually paying attention to Netflix stuff. So stuff made by Netflix is frequently made to be extremely inoffensive, passive background information with very obvious storytelling, and often feels the need to explain things out loud in stupid ways because they expect you to not be looking at the screen. And it's like, oof, because like that is Netflix making what their audience wants exactly. Like, it's like, you don't want to just make what your audience asks for or what their use case is. You don't want to just conform to the audience. It's profitable to do that, but it's upsetting artistically, because the idea of making movies and shows, like not YouTube videos, not a vlog like this, but a full TV show that's not meant to be looked at with your eyes, unless it's like an interesting accessibility thing or an experiment of expressing a particular idea about like maybe blindness or something, outside of like really specific ideas, that's upsetting. I don't want my fully produced television shows to have the same level of engagement that people treat most Let's Plays with. That's dark. I don't want Netflix to be prioritizing that. I want them to make cool art, which I should never expect from a corporation on some level, but the fact that they ever did makes me sad that they stopped caring about doing that, because they reprioritized just to being second screen entertainment because they're an at-home streaming service. And so on a similar level, many YouTubers should not just make what their audience demands or what their audience rewards, because that sends you down a pit of just making the same boring thing all the time, or even just creating content that seems to be what your audience responds to. Like in that manifests in kind of dark ways. Like the Quartering is a reactionary, dark, fucked up, Gamergate ass trash channel made by a garbage human being that should be deleted from the internet. Horrible person. And Quartering just makes multiple videos a day about controversies that sexists and racists care about, basically. People that use SJW as a derogatory term, and just spams videos. The kind of person that would have made 75 videos about Brie Larson in 6 hours during the one time that Brie Larson was in trouble for being a woman who spoke about being a woman for a minute, basically. Kind of people that obsess over Anita Sarkeesian. Just dark garbage humans. Deeply filthy person. Really going, he deserves it. He deserves it more than anyone, basically. It's like, but like what was really illuminating to me is that the Quartering once debated Big Joel, the leftist YouTuber, and did very poorly. Went on to not upload this. I only saw it mirrored via other people who recorded it while it was happening and uploaded it elsewhere. Did not go on his channel because he did not like how it played out. But over the course of this debate, he admitted that some of the stuff that he makes videos about, he doesn't even really know what's going on. Like, he just chases outrage and courts outrage nonstop because he just chases the numbers. He made some kind of content at some point, and it pointed towards this radicalization of this right-leaning, angry gamer audience that hates so mad about women in Marvel movies and stuff like that. And he just kept chasing what rewarded him, clearly. And so he just keeps trying to anticipate what his audience will reward him for making the videos for, and that seems to be all that fuels him as a creator, and that's why he's so fucking trash. And so in this debate, what became clear at times was the fact that some of the topics he made videos about, he didn't know anything about them. He just was going off of like a Reddit thread he half read or something, and he was just like signal boosting. He just tries to find the sparks of the beginning of an outrage and tries to get in there on the ground floor, and then just echoes whatever random angry tweet or Reddit post he found that seems to line up with what his audience seems to like, and then he just spews that shit onto the internet. This is the much darker version of like the MrBeast kind of aspect. It's just somebody who is raised by the algorithm. This, for creative purposes, from an artistic perspective, the Quartering is not a human being. The Quartering is the Chinese room, like the Turing test, like an AI test. The Chinese room is a one of those ideas where they talk about whether or not AI, like if you made an AI like Data from Star Trek, could you tell if it was a real person or not? Most of you know what the Turing test is. It's like if you can talk to an AI like chat bot and you can tell if it's a person or not. And in recent news, not doing great. But the Chinese room was a similar thing, but it was the idea that you were passing messages back and forth through a slit in the door, like a mail slot, and you would send in a question, and they would respond to you. And the question was like whether or not they actually know what you're asking them and understand the questions and are actually thinking, or if they just have a very large series of responses pre-programmed and they're just giving you those responses, and if at some point that could be so sophisticated you could maybe not tell that's not a person. Maybe you just think that's a real person because they're answering your questions, but it's really just somebody endlessly passing. They're following instructions, just passing you the response to each thing that they're given to you. That is what happens with MrBeast and the Quartering at times, and like the algorithm, is that they're just trying to figure out what they can make that will give the big number happen. And that's all that fuels them. They have no creative drive. They don't really care about what they're making. They're just trying to get number. And so you will just, like in the Quartering's case, just make culture worse and harm people and encourage harassment campaigns and make art worse and just generally just be toxic sludge for years because chase big number. Like, at least when somebody else makes a video that is ideologically wrong and they're yelling about thing, they at least like thought it through and cared about the thing enough to craft an argument. But this is just daily sludge in response to algorithm. And like, that's really sad. It's really dark. It bums me out. And so on that level, it's like, that's the dark, the shitty element of modern YouTube in many cases. And that's what I think Jacksepticeye was kind of pointing at with MrBeast, is that MrBeast videos are him selling you a thumbnail. The content isn't full of like crafted, cool stuff necessarily. And I'm not a master of MrBeast content. I haven't watched all of it because I hate it. So I'm not going to sit through it. He made an Amazon show and everyone said it was fucking garbage. And it's probably because it was 40-minute versions of his terrible content that he already does. So I bet the challenges were bad and the drama was bad and it was probably just soulless and frustrating because it's just is something uncanny and wrong compared to normal content that's actually artistically driven. And there are even interesting ways to make a game show. Like, I've been watching Taskmaster when I was in Canada, and I'm like, this is fucking cool. I love the show, actually. Or Game Changer and things like that. Like, those are like the anti-version of like MrBeast Beast games, where it's just this cynical, weird thing where you take MrBeast's made for YouTube algorithm chasing thumbnail crafting nightmare content and you try to make a real Amazon show out of it, and it turns out you just lose a bunch of money when you do that because no one actually likes it. MrBeast content can only function on YouTube as YouTube content, and it only exists because he's rewarded for a particular approach of promising crazy thing in thumbnail, having an incendiary title related to that. Not one that courts controversy, like quartering one out, but just one that like promises crazy spectacle on the face of it, and then just technically fulfills his promise. But only that. Like, it doesn't enrich you. It doesn't really make you think, unless you're thinking about how upsetting this is as a trend. It doesn't really like illuminate the human condition. It doesn't have interesting character drama. It's often just incoherently edited. Like, some of these challenges are about putting two people in a room and being stuck together, and even that stuff is so poorly filmed and edited with all of its ADHD editing that you just can't tell what even happened half the time. Like, the drama is lost. Like, it's just the raw premise. It's because the only goal, the only thing fueling MrBeast is for you to click on a video. So he's just trying to make the next expensive video that will make people click on it and then watch it through just on the raw spectacle and have no other wider purpose. And so having YouTube not being about being fun, and it's not being about people having a particular creative message to communicate. They're not communicating themselves because MrBeast intentionally excludes himself from his own videos. It's not. We never learn who he is as a person. He doesn't have anything to say. It's oatmeal. It's gruel. It's internet gruel that became the most popular thing in the world. And that sucks. And that sucks that, like, it's so powerful that everyone else on the platform is caught in the gravity of it and is feeling the incentive of it. Because if you don't chase this, like, power creep of these, like, every thumbnail being taken to 11, you don't get views, and the algorithm escapes you. The algorithm leaves you behind, and you find your stuff dying, not just staying the same. It's not about, like, it's not that people are getting greedy and like, MrBeast got numbers, I want numbers too, I'll change to be like MrBeast. No, it's like people are changing their format or their packaging not to get MrBeast numbers, but just to stop losing numbers, because they're like, fuck, I need to eat and everything's trending downward. And it's like, it doesn't usually trend downward at a rate where you're homeless overnight, but it's like, if I'm trending downward, that means I'm not trending upward, and that means next year, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, that's the sign of the end. It's like a midlife crisis on your YouTube channel where you're like, I might be fucked. What do I do about this? And so you start experimenting with all these, frankly, annoying types of thumbnails and packaging and format changes that try to kind of trick your audience into watching in a way akin to how MrBeast and a lot of these other people do. And it's like, that format change is a bummer. I would like to go back to YouTube 10 years ago, except for the part where YouTube was causing Gamergate to happen exactly at that year. I don't want, if I go back to 2015 YouTube, except Sargon of Akkad doesn't exist, and Anita Sarkeesian is doing fine, then it'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I 100% as a queer person recognize the downside of ever making painting a pretty picture of the past, because I remember being a gay person in the closet making content for YouTube in 2015. I remember covering Dragon Age and people being really mad about Sarah for some reason because they made the Dragon Age Inquisition characters ugly on purpose, and they had a horrible list of queerphobic and ableist fucked up slurs all going at Sarah for existing, basically, when she was just a really interesting character. But they're not here for art, they're here to be mad. So there's obviously downsides and cultural trends. I'm not... Obviously, when I talk about these specific elements, I don't want a perfect time machine. I don't want to relive the YouTube culture that more or less created the Trump presidency and is still ruining our lives these days. But the fact that YouTube channels could be so much more boring back then, because it was about hanging out with a channel you like, and it's like, listen to this math nerd talk about math again this week. It was friendly to a very different kind of content. It was more common back then for a Super Bunny Hop or a Joseph Anderson or a Matthew Matosis or Noah Caldwell Gervais or Red Letter Media, and some of these people are still doing this, and and this is a real mixed list of how much I like each person, but they would just make content that was like game or movie name review, and that was it. It was just like, it was enough to know that they made it, and this is what they're covering this time. What are they going to say about that? Maybe it was 20 minutes, maybe it was 40 minutes, but like, they were just there to talk about the thing, and they had the most honest branding conceivable. Some of these channels to this day don't use thumbnails. I think that Noah Caldwell Gervais and Vlogbrothers both still don't use custom thumbnails basically ever. A lot of Joseph Anderson's biggest videos are just a randomly selected thumbnail from in the middle of the game. Like, they didn't make one. Matthew Matosis, I think, never did thumbnails. I don't love Matthew Matosis and Joseph Anderson, but I've had an evolving impression of them over time. But like, making a thing I don't like is very different from making a thing that I think is bad for YouTube. Go for it. But like, I really miss that. I miss that for a decade I just called on my videos "Let's Play Game Name Part Number Dash," and then the end of the title would often just be like a list of boss fights I did that episode, or like keywords. Basically, I was keyword spamming back then, which is, it's honest. It's a different meta. It's a different tactic. It's still people trying to grow and game the system on some level, but it'd be like, "Let's play Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, Part 12 dash," and I'd list like items I found that episode and bosses I fought that episode. Then people looking up those things would find my video. It's like, if anything, it's extremely archivable because you're putting keywords in the title and so on. But it wasn't like, "Is Elden Ring woke?" And you're like, it's just you playing Elden Ring for 5 minutes. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? And it's like, it's been painful kind of watching Game Grumps morph over time, and every single thumbnail is like trying to express a specific emotion and stakes and a scenario, as opposed to just being like, "Yeah, we're playing this game." And it's like, some people even stop putting, to this day, any kind of number in their title or thumbnail, and they just make a series of videos about the game. And they're chronological. You have to, if you watch them in an order, they make sense as a series, but they lie about being a series because their videos will perform worse if they acknowledge that's a series. And it's like, why can't we just say what we're making? We use it for like 15 years. YouTubers just said what the video was and and then people liked it. And so, like, I don't know what changed in the algorithm, or if it is really just a cultural shift of MrBeast exploding and bringing in new viewers that have like changed the outlook of the whole thing and so on. But it does genuinely suck that things are this way. And the more I make videos, it's going to be me trying to figure out how to make the content I want to make, while also trying to figure out how to package it in a way that, like, specifically for higher effort stuff like this, like a little bit of this vlogging and stuff, but especially the video essays, which are like so much work, and so much of that is riding on me making a good title and thumbnail. You never want to have like an Evil Dead video where that completely flops after months of work. I'm always going to feel that pressure to see how incendiary or like how to package it to get people to click. And this channel is kind of, in some level, it's kind of an experiment in how to make that stuff work. But I'm also always going to be trying to figure out how to preserve my soul. Like, I don't want to sell myself out, basically, and like not be happy with myself anymore. And so that's a line that I'm trying to ride here and trying to figure out how to navigate. And that's an interesting challenge, because like everyone knows something they could be doing that would make them do better, but just makes them sad. And that's kind of an unfortunate dilemma on YouTube. And I didn't feel that pressure in the 2010s when this became my living. I really did get to just do what I was doing, and then people would just show up because they liked it. And you didn't feel this pressure to figure out how to trick people into watching gaming content or trick people into watching this other stuff. And I'm sad that now my algorithm is constantly full of this weird manipulative thumbnails and so on, even when I'm just watching gaming content. And I don't know. My thesis for this video has drifted a few times while I've been making it, but my starting point was actually I wanted to encourage people, once again, as I have been for years, just to think about how intentional their internet use is. Because I do really think that the original internet, when people did just look for stuff on their own and found stuff they liked through word of mouth and so on, and then would intentionally revisit things or keep up with particular creators because they wanted to see them and you had to put the effort in, I think there is something to that is nice. And I think that the front page of YouTube is just kind of upsetting at times. What I've noticed, on some level, I am conscious of the fact that the front page of my YouTube account, what's being suggested to me, is my fault on some level. It is tapping into some level of my psychology, and if I don't like what's there anymore, something about my interactions has caused this, and it's my fault on some level. And there are some tools for getting into this. You can actually get into like the behind, if you log into your behind the scenes stuff on YouTube, you can actually like see your own viewership history. Let me see if I can find there we go, my YouTube comments. There we go. Yeah, it's myactivity.google.com/ a bunch of noise I'm not going to try to parse right here. You can actually find your YouTube activity, and you can find your own comments on there, and you can find your own viewership history in there. You can delete videos from your own watch history on YouTube, and that should correct the algorithm a little bit when you have fucked up stuff in your viewership history that's like reorienting yourself. But like I keep getting suggested drama videos, and I keep clicking the don't suggest channel to me. And that does seem to work unless you manually look up one of the videos again. It seems to genuinely make them go away. But it doesn't correct your algorithm. So that individual channel will be gone, but there's so many drama channels that'll keep suggesting more. And like every now and then they get one click out of me where I'm like, okay, what's this guy's deal? I'm like, fuck, no, why am I watching this? This is like brain sewage. I can't be watching this channel. And then I'll then tell that YouTube to never suggest me that channel again. I'll be like, I watched one video, you got me once, but I'm not letting you tempt me with this. But because they got me once, they'll keep suggesting more drama channels that are like that one. There's like infinite clones of that exact content. It's so frustrating. And it's like, I don't like that. I don't like how much the front page is about trying to tap into my psychology and showing me the difference between my habits and my intentionality and exploiting that on some level. Like the subscription tab on YouTube is so important because it still technically exists and they haven't taken it away yet. It lets you see what people have uploaded that you subscribe to, and you manually can subscribe and unsubscribe to people, and it's just chronological, and it's not corrupted by any kind of algorithmic sorting or preference system yet. It does still just work. And I think everyone should try to use that page as much as possible, because the front page, it gets you. And you don't want to lose yourself to, in this like post TikTok era, you don't want to lose yourself to the algorithm and let it just choose for you all the time. You do want to be making curational choices about how about what your experience is and what you're spending your time on. There's this deliberateness that I think more people could do better with, and I try very hard to enforce it more and more on myself too, to choose what you're going to watch instead of just letting the thing guide you, because it can radicalize you, it can put you down weird pits, but can also just like alienate you from what you came here for in the first place in an increasingly disappointing way. And it rewards people like MrBeast because they just hit you with that thumbnail and you're like, well, I gotta see if he did it or not, right? And it becomes about those thumbnails and those packages and getting you to get sucked into something without necessarily emotionally resonating you and enriching your life and so on. And so much content can enrich your life or serve a sort of therapeutic purpose in the case of some of this like cozier hangout stuff, or it can enrich your perspectives, and the algorithm is often counter to those goals. So I guess that's kind of the conclusion I'm pointing at here a little bit. But like overall, I'm just kind of doing a little bit of old man yells at cloud, I guess, where I'm just like, man, I miss the YouTube that I quit my job to do. And it's not just because I was doing all right. In fact, my best years of YouTube technically were in like 2020 to 2022, not the 2010s technically. So it wasn't even my best years as far as income goes. It's just that like the environment was noticeably different. And I think it's worth recognizing how different things were once and what we're kind of losing, and why it makes sense to be more conscious of how trends are changing and fight back against that in our personal behavior, so that we don't lose sight of why we like these websites in the first place and what drew us to having these habits in the first place. Because that stuff's oftentimes still there and people are still trying to make it. They're just struggling to get it in front of your eyes because of how the ecosystem changes over time. So it's important to be deliberate and to check things out and curate your experience and actually click around and explore a little bit instead of just always having stuff shoveled to you. And I don't know, a little bit of a messy ending to the video, but I'm talking for a while and I could use a break, so I think that's going to be the video for right now. I guess I really bounced back from sickness. 2 days ago, I had horrible throat feelings that I was not happy with, and I'm like, here it comes. I know it's going to get worse. Then the next day, my throat badness wasn't that present anymore, but my whole head just was heavy and foggy. I was like weak in a way where like holding a phone felt heavy, and I'm like, man, fuck this. So I just like sat around playing Vampire Survivors all day and listening to video essays because I was like, just feel like trash. I'm not coherent enough to make a good video. Talking isn't good, so I don't want to be trying to do that. But like, I hate being sick like that because I also can't consume content or like watch movies and so on that I would enjoy because I don't want to waste them when I'm feeling like trash, because I'm like, I don't want to like waste a potentially compelling experience on a day where I feel like garbage because I might not absorb it because I'm so cloudy and shitty and so on. But yep. A lot of this video was about the rise of the influencer, and if you ever, it's a good reminder of how much people hated that word when it started happening, and I'm 100% with that. I often hesitate to call things. I kick myself whenever I accidentally call stuff content, because I don't love that either, as opposed to like videos, which is a much more specific thing. Videos are art. Content is a advertisement package. People started calling YouTubers influencers because that's what marketers saw them as a person who could drive sales for something. The word influencer was upsetting because it was people who were previously personalities or artists were being identified and defined by their value to advertisers as people who can move product and ship product and change audience opinion about thing and so on. And I would just say to generally be suspicious of any particular YouTuber and just think about, like, is this person here just to extract value, or do they have a thing that they bring to the table? Or do they have a thing that they want to show the world, or like an energy that they want to engage with? And I always want to include like people just vibing, there's people just like hanging out, come hang out with me when I play a game. It doesn't always have to be like a short film or a video essay and so on, like scripted crazy stuff, but like people that are here because they love doing it or because they want to share something with the world, versus people who just make content to extract value from you. And I cut people off so fast when I realized they seemed to be the second one. And yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. It's been going on for too long. I'll see you guys next time.